suffered a record loss of $120 billion in a single day. Yes, you heard it correct. $120 billion. That's more than the GDP of some countries. Now, it's the biggest single-day loss for any company in the US stock markets. In other words, the highest ever loss made by any company. After Facebook presented its second quarter report, its shares were down by more than 19%. Facebook lost around $120 billion in its market value. It's the biggest one-day market cap loss by any company in the history of the US markets. The market value of Facebook on Wednesday was at $630 billion, but after losing $119 billion, that figure came down to $510 billion by Thursday's close. After the biggest one-day slide, around $17 billion were lost from founder Mark Zuckerberg's net worth. Facebook earned a revenue of $13.23 billion. The market analysts had projected it to cross $13.36 billion. Wall Street had expected the tech giant to cross 1.49 billion global daily active users, but it could manage to touch only 1.47 billion users in this quarter. The internet firm has reported that daily active users rates were up 11% year-on-year basis for this quarter, but this figure did not live up to the expectations of analysts as well. Now, this rise somehow was supported by the user data of the Indo-Pacific region led by India, Indonesia and others. Looks like people in the Indo-Pacific region might still believe in Facebook's capacity to protect their data. But Facebook's user base in Europe has been declining since the Cambridge Analytica scandal and the introduction of the General Data Protection Regulation in the European Union. The user base in Europe reported by the company is 279 million, 0.4 million less than what Wall Street had expected. But the average revenue per user also was on the lower side. The company earned $5.97 per user globally. Surprisingly, Facebook had lost the earnings from advertisements. The Facebook had $13.04 billion of advertisements. Markets had projected it at $13.16 billion. Now take a look at some of the biggest losses in a single day in the US stock markets. Right, so there you go. Facebook, Intel, Microsoft, Apple and ExxonMobil. Right, moving on, Facebook's chief financial officer David Weiner has said that the company will continue its focus on privacy and will make it better. Some media analysts believe that the company will bounce back in the next quarter. Let's compare the $120 billion rout in market cap of Facebook with the GDP of some countries. The United States has a GDP of $19,390 billion, while the second largest economy in the world, China's GDP, is $12,014 billion. Japan has an annual GDP of $4,872 billion, and India's GDP is $2,611 billion, or $2 trillion. Pakistan's GDP is $303.993 billion, while data shows Bangladesh's GDP to be $261.374 billion. Kuwait has a GDP of $120 million, while the Ukraine's GDP is $109.321 billion. Ecuador has reported a $102.311 billion GDP, and the GDP of Sri Lanka is $87.591 billion. Moving on, figures from Oman show a $74.274 billion GDP, while Myanmar has a GDP of $66.537 billion. Botswana's annual GDP is $17.168 billion, while the GDP of Afghanistan is just $0.0262 billion. And finally, Zimbabwe's GDP is $0.0219 billion. Now, not just the stock market that is giving Facebook the jitters, its users now seem to be moving away from Facebook itself. The social media platform that still remains the core business of Facebook, the company is losing teenage users, one of its most important demographic. Now, a study carried out by Pew Research Center found that just 51% of teenagers between 13 and 17 in the US use Facebook. The number of users have dropped by 20% in 2 years. The teenagers are now turning to other platforms like YouTube, Instagram and Snapchat. Back in February, a similar study carried out by a market research company made similar claims. It claimed that Facebook's American user base in the 12 to 17 age category declined by nearly 10% in 2017. The study further claimed that Facebook will lose more than 2 million American users under the age of 25 this year alone.